Have you ever noticed how headlines about Venezuela's political drama seem to make oil prices jump around? It feels like any news from Caracas could send the global energy market into a tailspin. But what's really going on? How much does Venezuela's oil industry actually affect the gas you put in your car? Let's break it down. First, a reality check. Venezuela sits on some of the largest oil reserves in the world, but its ability to pump and ship that oil has cratered over the years. So, does the disruption there automatically mean a global shortage? Not exactly. The impact of Venezuelan supply is most significant when the global market is already tight, meaning demand is high and other producers are already pumping at full tilt. In a more balanced or oversupplied market, a drop in Venezuelan barrels adds to volatility, makes prices jumpy, but it doesn't necessarily create a widespread shortage. The world has learned to function with less oil from Venezuela. So, what's the biggest factor controlling the flow of Venezuelan oil? It isn't geology or the state of their oil fields. It's politics, specifically U.S. sanctions. Washington holds the master key. Sanctions determine who is allowed to buy Venezuelan crudes, which companies can ship it, who can insure those massive tankers, and how payments are processed. The U.S. government can grant special licenses or waivers to certain companies or countries, effectively opening and closing the tap. This policy lever is the single most powerful driver of how much Venezuelan oil actually makes it to the global market. When you see headlines about sanctions being eased or snapped back, that's the real story to watch. Now, where does the oil that does get out actually go? This is another fast-moving piece of the puzzle. For a long time, a significant portion of Venezuela's exports has been flowing to Asia, often through complex and non-transparent routes to bypass sanctions. However, if sanctions policies change, this could shift dramatically. For instance, if waivers are granted to European or American companies, we could see those barrels redirected from Asia back toward the Atlantic basin. This redirection doesn't change the total global supply, but it reshuffles trade flows, affecting shipping rates, refinery operations, and regional price differences. It's like a global game of musical chairs, but let's say all sanctions were lifted tomorrow. Would Venezuelan oil come flooding back into the market? The short answer is no. Years of underinvestment, neglect, and brain drain have left the country's oil infrastructure in a state of disrepair. Fields need massive capital injections, pipelines need fixing, and ports need dredging. These are not quick fixes. Any recovery in production would be slow and gradual, taking years, not months, to make a substantial difference. So, even with a green light, politically, the operational bottlenecks on the ground create a very real ceiling on how quickly supply can grow. Don't expect an overnight miracle. Finally, it's crucial to understand the second-order effects, because they can often have a bigger impact on market sentiment than the actual number of barrels. News about Venezuela can spike insurance premiums for tankers operating in the region. It can force ships to take longer, more expensive routes to avoid legal risks. And it plays into the broader geopolitical narrative, affecting how traders view risk in other parts of the world. Sometimes, the fear and uncertainty generated by a headline can move prices more than the physical supply disruption itself. It's a classic case of the psychology of the market being just as important as the fundamentals. So while the situation in Venezuela is complex, its impact on global oil is driven by a few key factors. The tightness of the overall market, the ever-shifting landscape of U.S. sanctions, the direction of trade flows, and the very real operational limits on the ground. Different analysts weigh these drivers differently. If you've seen credible data on exports, sanctions waivers, or production trends, I'd love to see it. Please share your thoughts and any data you have in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world.